Hi, you're welcome to today's learning. We're going to continue our learning on the Cisco tool, the Cisco Packet Tracer tool. Recall that the Cisco Packet Tracer tool is a network simulation tool. All right, so we are going to drop out two devices here, network devices. This is a router, right? This is a router, and then let's try out a switch. Okay. Right here, we have a switch, and then let's see if we can connect both. Right here, we have connection between a switch and a router, a switch and a router. So what we are going to be learning today is CLI commands, basic CLI commands for the Cisco Packet Tracer tool. So to enter the CLI mode, just click on any device, and then it brings you additional details here. So you can see there are 4 tabs here: physical, config, CLI, and attributes. So you can switch between any of them to see additional options right here. So to enter the CLI, we go to the CLI tab, and then it brings us right here. And you can see that there are a ton of information from the top, right? And when you go to the bottom, it shows you press return to get started. Return is your iOS command keyboard for enter, key for enter. On your Windows machine, it corresponds to the enter key, So you just press the enter key, and then you can get started. So there are 3 user modes. There are 3 user modes for the CLI of Cisco Packet Tracer. 3 user mode. There's the user execution mode. There's the user privilege mode. And then there is the configuration mode. So there is the user execution mode. Let's denote it by UX. The sign is the angular bracket. There is the user privilege mode. We denote it by UP. And then the sign is the hash sign. And then there is the configuration mode. Right? And then the sign is config. You see the word config typed beside the name of the device, config. So you see config, and then you see a hash just beside it, Yeah. So on this interface right now, you can see that we have the angular bracket. The name of the device is router, and then we have an angular bracket right here. So it implies that we are in the user execution mode. There are few very limited commands that you can run in the user execution mode, because this is the default basic mode for any device on the Cisco Packet Tracer tool. So you can switch between modes. You can switch between the user execution and the user privilege mode by using the command enable. This is the command in Cisco Packet Tracer that takes you into the user privilege mode. So when you type enable and you press enter, you are automatically taken to the user privileged mode. And right here, you can see the user privilege mode sign, which is the hash sign. User privilege mode, the hash sign. So you see the name of the device, router, and then you see the hash sign. Now, wherever you see this, it means that you are in the user privilege mode. So this is an elevated mode compared to the user execution mode. So here as well, there are just limited commands that you can run here. So to get into the configuration mode, you can use the command configure terminal. So when you do that, it brings you right here. So you can see the name of the device, and you can see the keyword here, configure, with a hash before it. So that tells you that you are now in the configuration mode. You are now in the configuration mode. So configure T, right? So you can use the same command. Instead of typing it in full, you can, let's see, I think there are variations to that command. I think you can use the word configure T. So you can see configure terminal brings you to this mode. Configure T also brings you into the configuration mode. It also brings you into the configuration mode. I think there is one other variation, and the other variation is config T. Config T will also take you into the configuration mode of any device that you are trying to configure using the CLI. So we have seen the three basic modes for the Cisco Packet Tracer tool. We have the user execution mode, denoted by the angular bracket. We have the user privilege mode, denoted by the hash sign. And then we have the configuration mode, denoted by the config and hash sign. So right here, we can use the word exit to go back to the lower mode, right? So we can type in exit in the command line interface, and then it takes us from the configuration mode. Now we should get back into the user privilege mode. So let's press our enter and see. So while we have enter there, so you can see we are back into the user privileged mode, right? And yeah, we can also get in by typing exit again. By typing exit again, we can get back into the user execution mode, right? So let's go back to the configuration mode, and we'll see another command from there. Recall that the last command we used was exit. Exit takes us one step backward. Exit takes us one step backward. From the configuration mode, if you type in exit, you get into the user privilege mode. From the user privilege mode, if you type in exit, you get into the user execution mode. However, let's look at the word here, the command end. Let's see. The command end, if we type in end and we're pressing enter, where does it take us to? It takes us again to where? From the configuration mode. Here, we are now right here at the privilege mode, the user privilege mode. So when we type in end, the behavior seems to be the same with the keyword exit, exit. So let's type in end again in this place. Where does it take us to? Let's see. See, it has a different behavior when it is at the user privilege mode. So when we are at the at the configuration mode, end takes us to the user privilege mode. When we are at the privilege mode, end takes us into something entirely different from what we have. So we're going to close this and then come back to the switch. So let's see for the switch. So we also have the same information. We have another tons of information here. You can read that up. And then here it says press return to get started. So press our enter key and then we can get started. And then we see the name of the device, switch. And then here we see the right arrow sign, meaning that we are at the user execution mode, which is the basic mode, right? So we can again type in enable here. And when we type in enable, it takes us to the user privilege mode. And then config T, when we type in config T, it takes us into the what? The configuration mode, So let's exit. And then, yeah, when we exit, we have one step backward into the user privilege mode and exit again. And now right at the default mode, which is the user execution mode. Now, there are shortcuts that we can use here. So when you type in some words and you press your tab key on your keyboard, the tab key auto completes the command for you. The tab auto completes the command for you. So when you can see that, let's see, when you press in tab, it auto completes the command for you. So you can use the tab key to auto-complete commands. You can use Control Z or Control C, Control Z or Control C to end commands, right? Yeah, to end commands. So assuming we have configure T, when we press our Control C, what do we have? We're taking backwards. When we press Control Z from here, we cannot exit from here using Control C or Control Z. So we can only exit by by typing in the command exit. Yeah, by typing in the command exit, right? So at any place within any mode that you are, you can use the question mark sign to look for possible commands that you can execute in that mode. So this is the user execution mode. When we type in the question mark, it gives us all the possible commands that we can run here. So you see connect, open a terminal connection, disable, you see disconnect, we see enable, we see exit, we see logout, we see ping, we see resume, we see show, we see SSH, telnet, terminal, and trace route, right? So let's enable and then see the possible commands that we can run in the user privilege mode. So we type in question mark. Wow, we have a lot of commands here in the user privileged mode. So these are all the possible commands you can run in the user privileged mode. And there are more, right? Yeah, there are more to them. So you have clear, clock, configure, connect, copy, debug, delete, directory, disable, disconnect, enable, erase, exit, logout, more, no, ping, reload, resume, setup, and show, right? So you can see these are more: resume, setup, show, SSH, telnet, terminal, trace route, on debug, and write. All right, so let's go into the configuration mode and see the possible commands that we can run there. So again, we type in our question mark, and you can see the possible commands you can run in your configuration mode. You have AAA, authentication, authorization, and accounting. You have access list, banner, boot, CDP clock, crypto default, do exec, .lx, enable, end, exit, hostname interface, IP line, LLDP login, MAC, MLS. Let's see more. We have monitor, no, NTP, port channel, privilege, SDM, service, SNMP server, spanning tree, CSC, ACS server, username, VLAN, and VTP, right? So you can see the commands that we have, all the possible commands in all three user modes that we have. All right, so we'll be looking at, in our next classes, we'll be looking at some of these commands and how we can use them in our configurations. All right, thank you for listening. Please do like, subscribe, and share. All right, so until the next time, keep learning.